and we are going to reveal the first region now. The first region is called the Hits region, and it features linebackers and safeties. And guys, I just want to say before we introduce these names that if there are any names missing, it is because I think this is Baylor's legacy spot. Oh, don't reveal the bracket yet, Travis. No.
I'm just teasing.
New producer, man. They can pause the video, Travis. My gosh. We gotta be more. We gotta hold our cards
They won't do it.
closer to our chest.
We need to fine him. Let's make sure we give him a fine. But he did order pizza for us, so give him grace, Scott.
Yeah, Travis did
We'll put
order
$1 in the
pizza
jar.
for us
We'll put
today.
$1 in the jar.
That's right. That's right. So here's the deal. I think this is Baylor's legacy position. If you ask most folks, the position at which Baylor has been the most deep over time, I think linebacker and safety each kind of contend for that. We did have a play-in matchup for this region between Clay Johnston and Maurice Lane, and Clay Johnston won the fan vote in a landslide. And in the first matchup in the Hits region, he will take on who might be Baylor's GOAT. I'll just put my cards on the table, Mr. Mike Singletary, the great Mike Singletary, not only a college football Hall of Famer, but an NFL Hall of Famer. Now, all of us kind of grew up after Mike Singletary played. What did you guys hear about Mike Singletary growing up when you guys were coming through?
Well, the guy was just a baller, man. I think when you think about just defensive greats in the Southwest Conference and what he was able to do and accomplish, he put records way out of reach for any player in the conference, in the country for that matter, and obviously left a legacy of hard-hitting, very instinctful football, and definitely one of the all-time greats who's going to be hard. I know he's going against Clay Johnston, but he's going to be hard to beat in any bracket, in any region.
Absolutely. Let's get through the rest of these matchups fairly quickly. Second seed in the Hits region, we have Thomas Everett. If you did not know, Thomas Everett, the first ever Jim Thorpe Award winner, one of Baylor's all-time greats, also won Super Bowls with the Dallas Cowboys, and he goes up against, there he is, Michael Bartlemay, Mr. Eddie Lackey. Any words on Eddie Lackey?
I just wanted to say we should bring back those jerseys that Everett's wearing right there. But also, this is just unfair to Eddie Lackey to have to go against Thomas Everett. This is ridiculous.
It's a deep position group, my friend.
Unfair.
Maybe most of you could probably predict the 3 seed of Singletary's 1 and Everett's 2. The 3 seed is Mr. Jalen Petrie, of course, the one who stayed, just an iconic football player, a Jim Thorpe Award runner-up his senior season, has had a great NFL career so far with the Houston Texans, and he goes up against another very hard-hitting safety who played near the line a lot, Mr. Ahmad Dixon, Waco's own Ahmad Dixon. The number 4 seed in this region is Joe Pavelec, the great linebacker from those Guy Morris teams. Of course, an iconic interception against Colorado at the goal line to win Baylor's only conference game in a very long time. Joe Pavelec, a legendary player in a tough era for Baylor football, going up against Bryce Hager, one of those great defensive captains from those great Art Briles teams. The number 5 seed in the Hits region is James Francis. James Francis, this is my favorite stat about Francis, holds the record for most blocked kicks in a season. He had 6 blocked field goals in a season, guys, against, again, Waco's own, Midway High School's own, Orion Stewart. Any thoughts on one of these guys?
Man, it's going to be really hard to beat Francis. He's such a transformational player, a great player, ran to the ball, had a ton of interceptions, a ton of tackles, made plays on special teams. It's going to be hard to beat. Orion Stewart was great. Only thing I remember, one of the big things I remember about Orion Stewart is Patty Mahomes beat us up down there in Arlington, and after the game, Orion Stewart says, "Man, I suck." And but everyone has probably got beat up by Patrick Mahomes at this stage in their career, both college and professional. Orion Stewart's a great athlete, but James Francis is probably going to get my vote out of those 2 picks.
I'll tell you, as a guy who grew up in Waco with Baylor attending parents, My dad talks about James Francis more than he talks about any other former Baylor football player. Like, the dude was a freak. The dude was a basketball player. We're going to have Alan Lefevre talk about him more in a second. I won't gush on. The 6th seed in the hits region is Robert Blackman, and he goes up against Jordan Lake, two of the best safeties in school history. Blackman known as a ball hawk who could force a lot of turnovers. Jordan Lake known as a guy that could lay the wood, just knocking dudes out left and right, forcing fumbles. Outstanding safeties there. The 7 seed in this region is Van McElroy. I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about Van, except he had a long and distinguished NFL career with the Oakland Raiders. I think he's also maybe top 3 or 4, maybe number 1 or 2 in turnovers forced in Baylor's history. And he goes up against Taylor Young, and I couldn't use another photo other than this one, laying Baker Mayfield out there. Taylor Young, of course, the outstanding 4-year starter at linebacker. And then the 8th seed is Mike Welch, another safety who forced a ton of turnovers, going up against the great Terrell Bernard. Terrell Bernard really coming to life his junior and senior seasons, especially that senior season, of course, when he won a Big 12 championship. Now let's show that bracket graphic, Travis. There it is, the hits region. Guys, let's take about 2 minutes. Tell me your reaction to the way this fell.
Man, I really think that you could look at everybody from almost 6 through 15, and you could split them up however which way you wanted to, because all of them are multi-time all-conference. Some of them are all-Americans, super distinguished. And I just like all the way down. It's a murderer's row. Scotty, I think you're 100% right. This group is so deep.
It is a very deep group. What a weird stat is, I played football at the University of Houston for a year with James Francis. And then I transferred to Baylor, and I played with Chris Francis. So I got to see those two guys play, and if they modeled anything after their dad, they knew football. They had a nose for football, and they had heavy heads. I mean, you run up in the middle of the line against those guys, you always had a headache. But I think if you look at this field, this region, Mike Singletary is going to be hard to beat, and it's the reason why he's number 1.
Yeah, I gotta jump in here and say and agree with you. Mike Singletary is going to be very, very difficult to beat. The amount of helmets that he broke that I heard about, that's like the number 1 thing I've heard about Michael Singletary is the number of helmets that he broke. But I've got to come in here and have the backs of my midway guys. Ahmad Dixon being 14 seed in the hits bracket is wild. Ahmad Dixon is one of the hardest hitting players I've ever seen play, and I got to watch him do it for a lot of the time at Midway High School and then going up to Baylor.
No shade, but Jordan Lake hits even harder. Hey, okay, this is why this is fun. This is awesome. Okay, this is what was so tough. I'll just tell you, when I constructed this, all these guys would be other schools like in their top. Like this is the position where I feel like Baylor is not behind a lot of schools. Like, a lot of these guys would be in most schools' top 16 players at these positions ever. It's just a deep, deep group.